So the president's been busy on the Twitter machine today. And just moments ago, President Trump warning Iran against striking any American assets, saying the U.S. has, quote, targeted 52 Iranian sites representing the 52 American hostages taken by Iran many years ago, some at a very high level and important to Iran and the Iranian culture. And those targets and Iran itself will be hit very fast and very hard. The USA wants no more threats. Republican Congressman from Kansas, Steve Watkins, is a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, also a veteran of Iraq and the U.S. Army. Congressman, there has been a lot of hand-wringing over the death of Qasem Soleimani. What's your take?
Well, John, let's remember that this is great news. First, we not only took a powerful piece off the chessboard, but also we're moving from an Obama policy of conciliatoriness over to Donald Trump, which wants to reestablish deterrence and reestablish us as a credible threat. And that's so imperative, especially those of us who have been tactical on the ground, and we understand the importance. Now, Iran will continue to escalate and climb up that ladder of escalation, but we need to focus on our mission, which is clear. One thing that the Secretary of State has said is that we have a clear and deep mission. That's to promote peace and prosperity throughout the region, do it by, with, and through our allies, using our military force if need be, preferably economic, information, diplomacy, and the like.
Well, obviously, the Iraqis are threatening now to push U.S. troops out of that country as a result of this airstrike. Iraq, in some sense, in some regards, being a sort of a puppet state to Iran these days. What if that were to happen? What if all U.S. forces get kicked out of Iraq as a result of all this? You know how much blood and treasure the United States has spent there. Would that be worth it?
Well, I saw the statements of Prime Minister Abdul Mahdi, and kind of like Secretary Pompeo, I believe that he knows the actual situation is he and many of his people want the United States there. In fact, that there were demonstrators rejoicing over the fact that we killed Soleimani, and so we'll be there. Unfortunately, I think it's a soft target. We are going to get a retaliatory attack from Iran. Looking at the battle space, that's probably where it'll happen. It's unfortunate. I've been on the ground there, and my heart goes out to the soldiers and the individuals and the diplomats and the contractors there. But we're certainly going through a tough time right now. But I'd point out that action in the short term does take risk, but inaction in the long run is even more risky.
A lot of Democrats are upset, maybe even angry at the president over this strike. I want to read a statement from Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia. He wants to see the War Powers Resolution filed. He says, "We owe it to our service members to have a debate and vote about whether or not it's in our national interest to engage in another unnecessary war in the Middle East." In your view, is what the president did tantamount to starting a war?
No, John, listen, I've heard the Democrats' response. First, they were talking about elements of just war theory. For example, was it a proportionate response? I heard that. I also heard, did he have the authority? He absolutely had the authority. Now, this insurgent, that's what he was, is a combatant in Iraq, had killed hundreds of American service members. And so we had every bit the right, and I'd be happy to debate that with any Democrat in the House.
The argument, though, is that you cut the head off the snake, but the snake remains alive, and that it'll just grow a new head. What about that?
Well, one of the things about Soleimani is that one of the things he added was these personal relationships that he had with Hezbollah in Lebanon, in Syria, in Iraq, particularly Al-Anbar. And you take away him as an individual. A lot of their efficacy depends on that personal relationship that they have with him. So that's what he brought to the fight. You take him away, it's more than just a position. I mean, he's kind of a folk hero, as we see. And so it's a huge victory for us. And again, we need to reestablish ourselves as a credible threat. And that's something even at the tactical level we understand. A lot of people for whom I try and make sense at the strategic level, I take it down to the tactical level. Those of us who are on the ground with assault rifles and sat phones and our mission or our work, we want them to believe that if anything were to happen to us, then a precision-guided Hellfire missile from a Reaper drone was going to come raining down on them. That's what we did, and that's the fear that we set in place all over the country. If you're a battle captain in Yemen who's an insurgent, or say in Hezbollah, keep in mind that if we can take out your general, then we can certainly take you out.
Steve Watkins is a Republican member of Congress from Kansas, also an Iraq vet and a West Point graduate. Congressman, thank you.
Thanks, John.